Would you like to be somebody who understands why artificial intelligence needs to be embedded in a moral code? Then listen to this entire video where I explain the problem that we are facing with developing a new technological advances like artificial intelligence and also machine learning, for example, and why it is key to why the trajectory of humankind depends on combining these technologies with ethics. Okay, before we get into this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn more about self-development, dating, and how to reduce suffering in life. Let's get into it. Okay, so currently, or at least in the past decades, we have experienced a tremendous technological advance with an unprecedented growth rate. So technologies have, well, changed, to say the least, dramatically over the past years. And one thing that has seemingly lagged with at the same time whilst technologies have advanced is our spiritual knowledge and our let's say moral sense making or moral interpretations, let's say. And this is this has actually occurred for a long time, since the sort of scientific revolution occurred and science split away from, let's say religion, and science thrived whilst religion decayed, and religion gave advice, let's say, on how to behave ethically, and that sort of fell into the shadow of society, let's say. Now, when we are building programs based on artificial intelligence, I guess I'm no expert in these technologies by all means, so please correct me if I say something wrong, but we're trying to replicate the human brain. We're trying to set up a program that autonomously thinks or functions like a human brain without us having to control it or give it orders. And machine learning is a kind of technology. If you put it in a program, the program will start to learn things itself without you, again, having to give orders. Now, we don't know the consequences of what these programs will produce because they operate in a way that is beyond our sort of limited awareness or consciousness, because these programs are able to incorporate so many variables that we at first sight cannot really absorb, which they can, however. Now, the thing with machine learning and artificial intelligence is that, we don't know, we've never experienced how they really, or what they could transform into, and we're sort of tippy-toeing into darkness with the hope of something positive coming out, but we really don't know. Now, if we rely on these systems in the future to, take care of integral aspects of our society, we need to make sure that these systems incorporate an ethical code, because the stronger these systems get, the more of an influence they will have. And because a lot of our society and a lot of integral domains of society need ethical guidance in order to steer humanity towards something positive and veer away from something unwanted, these systems will need to have ethical lenses. Now, the ethical code obviously would seem to be chosen by those who program these systems, and thus the decisions of the programs will be reflections of our own morality. But if our morality is absent, deformed, ill-structured, then we are essentially doomed, because these programs will take control, or will be like you'll press play on the system and let it run, and without any moral guidance, it'll do whatever it wants. And if it overpowers us, then, and it has no ethical sense making, then the probability of us suffering is very high, I would say. Now, some examples of where, like, a potential future system would need a moral variables incorporated would be, let's say, just if a judicial system or a legal system would be automated, like judges or a court. Let's say if you brought people, perpetrators or suspects into court, and the judge has, let's say, not even an absent moral sense making, but a tweaked, dangerous moral sense making, then from then on, all the suspects may be punished inaccurately, because, or wrongly or unfairly, and that's dangerous, obviously. Or another thing is, nowadays online platforms use systems to detect whether content that is uploaded is sensitive or not, whether it is like adult content or not. But what if these platforms were set up by people who don't really understand the ethical implications of sensitive information or adult content, and then this content is openly spread, and it's like pornography, let's say, has serious effects on adolescents, and makes them suffer in the long term because their mind is manipulated and in bad ways. Now, so Jordan Peterson has two very good quotes. He says, "The stronger your tools become, the more ethically switched on you need to become, because things are going to go to hell in a handbasket if you apply your tools clumsily." Or, "We better be careful about what our morality is if we're going to automate it." Very good, very wise. So, the point is, we need to solidify our morality, the constraints of life, and make moral codes more salient. But what is our moral code? That's the question, really. I guess we don't know what the moral code is, but we need to figure it out. And we need to make it salient to those who are programming our sort of technologies, not just them, but everybody else, because everybody else is influencing them, because we live in a intertwined society, and everybody should have some moral sense making. So we need to figure out this ethical code. What would it entail? I don't know, but I think if a ethical code would leave humans towards a society in which there is equal opportunity for each individual in the society, there is a reduction in suffering, in unnecessary suffering, and people are able to live with some sort of well-being and truth, existence, and the ability to transform and change and live free in a manner that is reflective of their biological nature. I think that will be good. What that is, though, no clue. I don't know it yet. Now, I was thinking about this myself, and I thought, if the intelligence can think for itself, how will it digest the ethical code? For example, machine learning. We don't know how it'll behave because it is extremely complex to estimate. It's like trying to predict the choice of a child's precise personality and its behavior before the child is even born. We just don't know. And in order for it to be perfectly replicate the moral decision of a human, the program would need to precisely represent the human mind. And can it even do that? Perhaps the program or machine learning evaluates the ethical code that we give it and actually denies it and produces something even better, which we are not able to construct yet. Or it develops a substitute that is comparatively suboptimal, and that would be really bad. For example, if we bring it back to the automated legal system where a judge is a suspect, a criminal suspect, if the machine decides to develop a new ethical code that is actually better than the old one, that would be potentially good. But if it actually thinks the ethical code is unnecessary because it's a machine and cannot sympathize with humans, and doesn't think that an ethical code is necessary for humans because the ethical code would protect or prevent humans from suffering, and it can't sympathize with the suffering of humans, and it just shuts it down, the ethical code, because it is inefficient, let's say, that would be pretty bad. Yeah, so in conclusion, our technologies need to embed ethical codes because they will be so prominent in the future and will overtake key transformational decisions that will steer the fate of society in the future, and these decisions will often need to be ethically loaded or ethically sensitive or incorporate ethical variables because they entail human suffering and the trajectory of humanity. These machines need to incorporate ethical codes, and not just any ethical code, but a good one, like one that is optimally best for humans. And obviously we don't know what that is, but we need to figure that out now whilst we're creating these systems and make these codes salient to society. So because these developments, these programs will be popping up across the globe, and we cannot predict where they'll be popping up, but we need to ensure that essentially everybody has a ethical sense making, and not just a limited group of individuals or programmers. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn more about self-development, dating, and how to reduce suffering in life. Thank you for listening.